The last thing Naomi Williams expected when she walked into work that Thursday night was to save a mafia boss's life with eyeliner and a napkin, or that doing so would make her the most wanted woman in Chicago by midnight. But when she overheard the blonde socialite in the wine cellar confirming the hit on her own fiancé, speaking French she didn't know anyone was listening to, Naomi had exactly 8 minutes to decide. Let a man die and stay invisible, or hand him a warning and become a target herself. She chose wrong, or maybe she chose right. Either way, by the time the bullets started flying at Le Jardin des Toils, Naomi's old life was already dead, and the devastatingly dangerous man she just saved was the only thing standing between her and the assassins now hunting her through the city. Welcome to Afro-Korean Stories, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. It started 6 hours earlier, with flowers. An enormous arrangement of white roses arrived at Le Jardin des Toils at 4 that afternoon, delivered with specific instructions. Table 12. For Ms. Lyra, to be placed before service. Naomi had helped carry them from the delivery entrance, noticed how the card was sealed with red wax, noticed how the manager Antonio handled them with unusual care. VIP treatment, he'd muttered. The Lyra family. Don't mess this up, Williams. Naomi had nodded, keeping her head down like always. 6 months at Le Jardin des Toils, Chicago's most exclusive French restaurant, and she'd perfected the art of being invisible. Serve the food, collect the tips, avoid attention. It was a good system. It kept her safe. She should have known nothing stayed safe forever. By 7:30 that evening, the restaurant was packed with Chicago's elite, the kind of people who spent more on wine than Naomi made in a month. She moved through the dining room with practiced efficiency, refilling water glasses, taking orders, staying invisible in her black uniform. That's when she first noticed the man at the bar. Dark suit, expensive watch, ordering top-shelf vodka he barely touched. He wasn't watching the basketball game on the discreet screen above the bar. He was watching table 12, the window table where Genevieve Leroy sat with her fiancé, Kang Min-ho, the power couple. Everyone whispered about them when they thought the staff wasn't listening. He was Korean Mafia, though no one said it that directly. She was French syndicate royalty, her father one of Chicago's most dangerous crime lords with ties stretching back to Marseille. Their engagement had been society page news for 3 months, a merger disguised as romance, an alliance wrapped in designer dresses and charitable donations. Naomi had served them twice before. Min-ho always ordered the same thing, medium-rare ribeye, no sides, whiskey neat. He was polite to servers in a way that felt deliberate, like he'd learned kindness as strategy. Genevieve treated staff like furniture. Tonight they sat at table 12 by the windows, laughing over wine, looking like every other wealthy couple in love. Except something felt wrong. Naomi couldn't explain it, just an instinct honed from 6 years in foster care, where you learn to read danger in the spaces between smiles. The way Genevieve's hand trembled slightly when she lifted her wine glass. The cold calculation behind her laughter. The way she kept glancing toward the bar. Then Naomi noticed the 2 men in the corner booth near the kitchen. They'd arrived 20 minutes ago, ordered appetizers they weren't eating, wine they weren't drinking. One kept adjusting his jacket in a way that reminded Naomi of her foster brother Marcus, the way he used to fidget with his waistband when he was carrying 3 men, all watching table 12, all pretending not to. Naomi's phone buzzed in her apron pocket. A text from Marcus, the only person from her old life who knew where she was. Get out. Now, Leroy's are moving tonight. You're in the building. Go. Her blood turned to ice. Marcus worked private security now, the kind that operated in gray areas. He had connections to people who knew things, heard things. If he was warning her, she looked back at table 12. At Min-ho, laughing at something Genevieve said, completely relaxed. At Genevieve, whose hand was no longer shaking, whose smile had gone predatory. Naomi typed fast. What's happening? Marcus's response was immediate. Hit. On the Korean. Leroy set him up. Engagement's a trap. They move when dessert service starts. 10 minutes. Naomi checked the time. 9:47 p.m. Dessert service started at 9:55. She could walk away. Clock out through the back, disappear into Chicago's night, let whatever was about to happen just happen. Men like Kang Min-ho didn't survive in his world without earning enemies. Maybe he deserved what was coming. But she thought about the $300 tip he'd left last week with a note thanking the kitchen staff by name. About how he always said please and thank you like they actually mattered. About the fact that Genevieve Leroy was about to orchestrate murder in a restaurant full of innocent people. 8 minutes. Naomi's hands shook as she grabbed a napkin and pulled out her eyeliner. She wrote in shaky letters, "Engagement is a trap. Genevieve's father arranged a hit. Men in position. You have 8 minutes." She folded it small, tucked it into her apron, and walked toward table 12 like she was walking through fire. Antonio intercepted her halfway. "Williams, what are you doing? That's not your section." "Cover for me," she said quietly. "Please, just 2 minutes." Something in her voice made him pause. He studied her face, then nodded slowly. 2 minutes. Then I don't know you. Naomi grabbed a dessert menu from the service station, forced her voice steady as she approached table 12. "Good evening. I wanted to personally offer you our dessert menu tonight. Chef's prepared something special." Minho looked up. For half a second, his eyes met hers, polite acknowledgement, nothing more. Then something shifted in his expression, like he was seeing her for the first time despite serving him dozens of times. Genevieve's smile tightened. "We didn't call for complimentary," Naomi interrupted, setting the menu down directly in front of Minho. The napkin was tucked inside, visible to him but not to Genevieve. "Chef insists." Minho's hand moved to the menu casually, flipping it open. His eyes scanned the napkin for maybe 3 seconds. His expression didn't change, not even a flicker, but Naomi saw his other hand, resting on the table, slowly curl into a fist. "How thoughtful," he said quietly. His eyes met Naomi's again, and this time there was recognition there. Understanding. "Please thank the chef for his attention to detail." "Of course." Naomi turned to leave. "Wait." Genevieve's voice cut through the air like a blade. "I don't think we've met properly. You've been serving us for weeks, but I don't know your name." Naomi's throat went dry. "Naomi, ma'am, Naomi." Genevieve tilted her head, studying her with eyes that had gone calculating. "You have an interesting look, very striking. Where are you from?" "Here, Chicago." "Really?" Genevieve's gaze traveled over her face, the rich brown of her skin, the scar above her eyebrow, the way her natural curls tried to escape her tight bun. "You seem familiar somehow. Have we met before?" "I don't think so, ma'am." Genevieve's smile was pleasant, her tone light, but something cold moved beneath. "Perhaps I'm mistaken." Minho stood abruptly. "Darling, I just remembered I have a call I need to take. Business, you know how it is." He smiled apologetically. "I'll just be a moment." Genevieve's voice sharpened. "Can it wait?" "Unfortunately not." He was already moving, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Korean as he headed toward the kitchen entrance, not the restrooms. Naomi noticed. The kitchen. Genevieve's face went pale, then flushed with fury. She stood, her chair scraping back. "Excusez-moi," she said to no one in particular, and followed him. The man at the bar was already standing. The 2 men from the corner booth were converging toward the kitchen. Moving fast now, pretense abandoned. Naomi didn't think, she just moved. She caught up to Minho at the kitchen doors. "The back exit," she said urgently. "Through storage, there's an alley." "I know." His hand caught her wrist, gentle but absolutely firm. "You're coming with me." "No, you just saved my life, which means Genevieve saw you, knows you warned me, and the Leroys don't leave witnesses." His eyes were dark, intense, burning with something that made her breath catch. "So unless you want to be dead in the next 5 minutes, you're coming with me right now." A crash from the dining room. Shouting. The distinctive sound of chairs being knocked over. Minho pulled her through the kitchen doors. The staff looked up, startled, as he dragged Naomi past prep stations and industrial stoves. Antonio appeared in their path, eyes wide. "What the hell?" "Call the police," Minho snapped. "Now tell them shots fired." "Shots? There haven't been any." The first gunshot cracked through the air, not loud like movies, sharper, flatter, like a firecracker in a closed space. Screaming erupted from the dining room, more shots, glass shattering. The sound of expensive dishes hitting marble floors. Antonio dove behind the expediting station. Minho pushed Naomi ahead of him, his body a shield between her and the chaos erupting behind them. They crashed through the storage area, past shelves stacked with dry goods and industrial supplies. Another gunshot. Closer. Wood splintered above Naomi's head, the back door. Minho hit it with his shoulder and it burst open into cold Chicago night. Rain was falling, turning the alley into rivers of reflected neon. A black SUV was already there, engine running, back door open like it had been waiting. "In," Minho ordered. Naomi hesitated for half a second. This was insane. She didn't know this man. Getting into that car meant crossing a line she could never uncross. But then she heard shouting behind them in French and another gunshot that ricocheted off the brick wall beside her head. and she was diving into the backseat. Minho followed, slamming the door. Go, now! The SUV was moving before Naomi could catch her breath, tires squealing on wet asphalt. She pressed herself against the opposite door, breathing hard, her uniform soaked with rain and terror. Minho was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean. His voice was controlled, clinical despite the blood on his sleeve. Someone else's, Naomi realized with numb horror. He ended the call and turned to her. Up close, in the SUV's dim interior, he was devastating. Sharp features that belonged on magazine covers, dark eyes that missed nothing, a mouth set in a line that suggested he rarely smiled unless he meant to intimidate. Name, he said. You already know it. Naomi Williams. Full story, Naomi Williams. His eyes traveled over her face with unnerving intensity. How did you know about the hit? I didn't, not exactly. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them against her knees, trying to stop the trembling. I noticed things. The way Genevieve kept looking at the bar. The men who weren't really eating. Her hands shaking when she thought no one was watching. And then my foster brother texted me. Your foster brother. Minho's expression sharpened. Who is he? Marcus Davis. He works private security, has connections to. She trailed off, not wanting to say it. To people in my world, Minho finished. People who hear things. Yeah, he warned you the Leroys were moving tonight. Told me to get out. I should have just left. Naomi met his eyes, and something electric passed between them. Awareness, recognition, the beginning of something dangerous. Why didn't I just leave? Because you're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. His smile was sharp, predatory. I haven't decided which yet. SUV turned sharply, heading east toward the waterfront. Naomi recognized the route, the docks, the industrial district, the part of Chicago tourists never saw. Where are we going? Somewhere the Leroys won't think to look, at least not immediately. Minho pulled out his phone again, scrolled through messages. His jaw tightened. Le Jardin des Toiles is a crime scene, 3 of Genevieve's men dead, 2 civilians injured, and Genevieve herself disappeared. Naomi's stomach lurched. Who? Not your problem. His voice was cold, final. My people were in position, we just needed warning to move first. People. Naomi's brain was trying to process everything. You knew there might be trouble. I suspected. Genevieve's been too eager to move the wedding up, too insistent on handling all the planning herself, too interested in my security protocols. Minho's jaw tightened. But I didn't have proof, didn't know when or how. Your warning gave me the 30 seconds I needed to get my people in place. So you used me. You used my warning to. I used your warning to survive. His eyes locked on hers, and the intensity there made her breath catch. And to save everyone else in that restaurant. If Genevieve's people had moved first, it would have been a massacre. This way it was contained. 3 people are dead. 3 people who came to murder me, yes. No apology in his voice. Would you prefer I let them succeed? Naomi didn't have an answer for that. The SUV pulled up to a warehouse, massive and dark except for subtle security lights. Guards appeared from nowhere, weapons visible now, checking the perimeter with military efficiency. Minho stepped out and extended his hand. Come on. Naomi stared at his hand. This was it. The moment where she either trusted a man she barely knew or tried to run and probably died for it. She looked at his face, at the sharp intelligence in his eyes, at the blood on his sleeve, at the way he held himself like violence was just another language he spoke fluently. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong, and he pulled her from the SUV with unexpected gentleness. Close, she caught his scent, expensive cologne mixed with gunpowder and rain and something darker she couldn't name. Safe here, he said quietly. Tonight at least. Tomorrow we figure out the rest. Inside, the warehouse was transformed. Industrial luxury, polished concrete floors, modern furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River. It was beautiful in a stark, dangerous way that somehow fit him perfectly. Minho led her to a sitting area. Sit. I'll get you something to drink. Naomi sat on the edge of a leather sofa, her wet uniform leaving marks she was too exhausted to care about. Her hands were still shaking. She couldn't make them stop. Minho poured water for her, whiskey for himself. He drank the whiskey in one swallow like it was water, poured another, then sat across from her. Close enough that she could see the faint scar on his jaw, the exhaustion around his eyes, the way his wet shirt clung to shoulders that suggested he knew how to handle himself in a fight. So, he said, let's talk about what happens next. What happens next is you take me home, Naomi said, trying to keep her voice steady and failing. I forget tonight ever happened, you forget I exist, and we both move on with our lives. Minho's laugh was bitter, sharp. That's not an option anymore. Not because Genevieve saw you, knows you warned me, and the Leroys don't forgive Naomi. He leaned forward, and suddenly the space between them felt charged, dangerous. They especially don't forgive threats to their power. You made yourself a threat the moment you handed me that napkin. Fear, real and visceral, cut through Naomi's exhaustion. I didn't ask for this. You chose it. His eyes held hers, dark and intense and absolutely uncompromising. You could have walked away. Your foster brother warned you, gave you an out. Instead, you warned me. Why? I don't know, Naomi whispered. It seemed like the right thing to do. The right thing. He shook his head slowly. That kind of thinking gets people killed in my world. Then maybe your world is wrong. Something flickered in his expression, surprise, maybe, or respect, or something darker that made heat pool in her stomach. Maybe, but it's the world we're both in now. His phone buzzed. He read the message, and his jaw tightened in a way that made him look even more dangerous. Claude Leary is already spinning this, calling it an unprovoked attack on his daughter. By morning, every news outlet will be running stories about how I tried to murder my fiancé. That's not what happened. Doesn't matter. Truth is whatever people believe, and the Leroys have been in Chicago longer than my family. They have connections, influence, politicians in their pocket. He stood, packing to the windows with controlled aggression. Chicago's skyline glittered beyond the glass, beautiful and indifferent to the violence happening in its shadows. I need proof of what Genevieve planned. Without it, this becomes a war I might not win. What kind of proof? He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. Your testimony. Naomi's stomach dropped. You want me to testify publicly? I want you to tell the truth about what you saw tonight. The men in position, Genevieve's behavior, the warning from your foster brother, all of it. He moved closer, and Naomi fought the urge to lean back. With your testimony, I can prove Genevieve planned this. Can discredit her father, end this before it becomes the bloodbath they want. Paint an even bigger target on my back. The target's already there. His voice was quiet but absolute. The Leroys want you dead either way. At least if you help me, I have a reason to keep you alive. That's not exactly reassuring. It's honest. He crouched down so they were eye level, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. I'm not going to lie to you, Naomi. You're in danger, real, immediate danger, but I can protect you if you let me. And in return, you help me end this war before more people die. If I say no, then I put you on a plane to somewhere far away, give you enough money to disappear, and hope the Leroys don't find you. His expression was unreadable, but we both know they will, eventually. They're patient, thorough, and they don't forgive. Naomi's hands were shaking again. She pressed them against her knees, trying to find steady ground in a world that had tilted sideways. This is insane. I just wanted to serve tables and stay invisible. I know. His voice softened slightly, and the gentleness in it was somehow more dangerous than his earlier coldness. But that's not an option anymore. She looked at him, really looked at him. This man who controlled half of Chicago's underworld, who just survived an assassination attempt, who was offering her protection in exchange for becoming a weapon in a war she never asked to fight. She should be terrified. Should be demanding he take her to the police, to the FBI, to anyone with actual authority. But she'd learned young that authority didn't always protect people like her, that sometimes survival meant making impossible choices with dangerous men. If I do this, she said slowly, if I testify, what happens after, when it's over? After? Minho studied her face like he was memorizing every detail. After you get a new identity, new city, new life, far from here, far from the Leroys, far from me. Something flickered in his eyes, regret, maybe, or something darker. Safe, that word again. Safe. Naomi had been chasing safe for 12 years. It was always just out of reach. "'Kay," she heard herself say. "I'll do it." Minho's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Relief, maybe, or calculation, or the beginning of something neither of them was ready to name. "Then we start now. I need you to tell me everything. Every detail about tonight, about your foster brother's warning, about what you noticed before the shooting started." So Naomi talked. She told him about the flowers that arrived that afternoon, about the man at the bar who wasn't really drinking, about the 2 men in the corner booth who never touched their food, about Genevieve's shaking hand and cold eyes. She told him about Marcus's text, about the 8-minute countdown, about the decision to warn him instead of running. Minho listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. Your foster brother, he said finally. Marcus Davis, he needs to be brought in, protected. Protected? Naomi's chest tightened. Why? Because if the Leroys connect him to tonight's warning, he's as dead as you are. Minho pulled out his phone. Give me his number, I'll have my people collect him. Collect him like he's cargo. Like he's in danger. Minho's voice was sharp. Unless you'd prefer I leave him where he is and let the Leroys find him first. Naomi gave him the number, adding how helpless she felt, adding that this man was right. Minho made a call in rapid Korean, then hung up. He'll be here within the hour, he said. My people are good at extractions. This is really happening, Naomi whispered. This is really my life now. Now, Minho stood, extended his hand with unexpected grace. Come on, I'll show you to a room where you can clean up, rest. You look like you're about to collapse. Don't think I can rest. Anyway. His hand stayed extended, patient, and there was something almost gentle in his eyes now. Tomorrow starts the real work. You'll need your strength. Naomi took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. He led her through the warehouse to a bedroom that was sparse but comfortable. Large bed with expensive linens, private bathroom, windows that overlooked the river with a view that probably cost more than she'd make in a lifetime. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer, he said from the doorway. But you're protected here. No one gets past my security, my word on that. Your word means something. His smile was sharp, devastating, and did things to her pulse she absolutely was not ready to examine. In my world, it means everything. He left, the door closing softly behind him. Naomi stood in the center of the room, still in her wet uniform, still shaking, and tried to process the fact that her life had completely imploded in the span of 2 hours. She should be terrified. Should be planning escape routes and worst-case scenarios. Instead, she felt something strange settle in her chest. Not safety exactly, but the absence of the constant vigilance she'd carried for 12 years. For the first time since leaving foster care, someone else was watching the shadows for her. She didn't know if that made Kang Minho her protector or her captor. Maybe in his world, there wasn't much difference. But as she caught sight of her reflection in the bathroom mirror, eyes wide, curls wild, still wearing the uniform of a life that no longer existed, Naomi realized something else. She wasn't just afraid. She was curious. About him. About this world. About what would happen when the sun came up and they had to face whatever came next. And that curiosity, she suspected, was far more dangerous than the Leroys could ever be. Naomi woke to the sound of voices speaking Korean outside her door. For a disorienting moment, she forgot where she was, then memory crashed back. The restaurant. The warning. The gunshots. Minho's hand wrapped around her wrist as he dragged her through the kitchen. She sat up too fast, her head spinning. Gray morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, turning the Chicago River into liquid silver. She was still wearing her uniform from last night, stiff with dried rain and smelling faintly of gunpowder. A knock on the door made her jump. Naomi. Minho's voice, quiet but commanding. Are you awake? She stood, ran her hands over her hair. A useless gesture, her curls were a disaster, and opened the door. Minho stood in the hallway wearing fresh clothes, dark jeans, and a black button-down that somehow made him look more dangerous than the blood-stained suit from last night. His hair was damp like he'd just showered. He held a steaming cup of coffee and a shopping bag. Good morning. His eyes traveled over her, lingering on her rumpled uniform. You didn't sleep. How can you tell? You're still wearing yesterday. He handed her the coffee. And you have shadows under your eyes that weren't there last night. Naomi took the coffee, grateful for something to do with her hands. Hard to sleep when your life explodes. Enough. He held out the shopping bag. Clothes. I had someone pick them up this morning. Should be your size. She took the bag, suspicious. How do you know my size? I'm observant. His smile was slight, dangerous. And I have people who are very good at guessing. Inside the bag were jeans, a soft sweater, undergarments, all exactly her size, all expensive brands she'd never have bought for herself. The intimacy of it made her skin heat. Thank you, she said quietly. Your foster brother arrived an hour ago, Minho said. He's downstairs, wants to see you. Relief flooded through her. Marcus is okay, pissed off, but okay. Minho's expression was unreadable. Get dressed, then we talk, all three of us. He left before she could respond. Naomi closed the door, leaned against it, and tried to steady her breathing. This was real. This was happening. She was standing in a Mafia safe house wearing clothes a Korean crime lord had bought for her, about to face her foster brother who'd somehow gotten tangled up in all this too. The shower was scalding and perfect. She stood under the spray until her skin was pink, washing away the smell of gunpowder and fear. The clothes fit perfectly, dark jeans that hugged her curves, a cream-colored sweater that was softer than anything she'd owned in years. Even the bra fit right, which was somehow more unsettling than anything else. How carefully had Minho been watching her? She found her way downstairs by following voices. The warehouse had multiple levels, the industrial main floor, and what looked like converted office space above. She followed the sound of argument to a conference room where Marcus was packing like a caged animal while Minho sat at the head of a long table, completely calm. "No right to just grab me off the street," Marcus was saying. "I don't care who you are, Marcus." Naomi's voice cut through his rant. He spun around, and the anger in his face transformed to relief. "Naomi, Jesus Christ, are you okay?" She barely got 2 steps into the room before he pulled her into a crushing hug. Marcus was built like a linebacker, all muscle and protective fury. He'd been her foster brother for 3 years, the closest thing to family she had left. "I'm fine," she said against his chest. "I'm okay." "You're not okay. You're in a goddamn Mafia safe house because you..." He pulled back, holding her shoulders. "Why didn't you just leave when I told you to?" "Because people were going to die." "People did die, Naomi." 3 of them. Marcus's eyes were hard. "And now you're a witness to an attempted mob hit, which means she's under my protection," Minho interrupted quietly. "Sit down, Mr. Davis. We need to talk about what happens next." Marcus glared at him but sat. Naomi took the chair beside him, hyper-aware of Minho's eyes on her. "Let's start with how you knew about the hit," Minho said, his gaze fixed on Marcus. "You warned Naomi with very specific information." "Where did it come from?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "I have sources." "Good enough." Minho's voice was soft, dangerous. "The Learys planned this carefully. Very few people knew the details, so either you have someone very high up in their organization or you're working for them and this whole thing was a setup." "You think I set up my own sister?" Marcus half rose from his chair. "Foster's sister," Minho corrected. "And I think you have information that could get you killed. So yes, I need to know where it came from." Naomi put her hand on Marcus's arm. "Just tell him, please." Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then, "I work security for the Sinclair Hotel downtown. High-end place, lots of VIP guests. Part of my job is keeping track of things, who's meeting who, what gets said in bars when people think the staff isn't listening," Minho prompted. "And 3 days ago, I overheard Claude Leray meeting with 2 of his lieutenants in one of our private dining rooms. They were speaking French, thought they were safe." Marcus's expression was grim. "I speak French. My foster mother made sure all her kids learned it." Naomi's chest tightened. "Their foster mother, Marie, the Haitian woman who'd taken them in and taught them her grandmother's language before cancer took her too soon." "What did you hear?" Minho asked. "Plans for a hit. They mentioned LeJardin Detoils, mentioned Kang Minho, mentioned that Genevieve would give the signal when dessert service started." Marcus leaned forward. "They said it had to look like your people started it, that Genevieve would play the victim and you'd be dead before anyone figured out the truth." Minho was silent, his expression unreadable. "And you didn't think to warn me directly? I don't know you. For all I knew, you deserved it." Marcus's voice was hard. "I only warned Naomi because she works there. Told her to get out, stay safe. I didn't expect her to." He shot Naomi a look. "To do whatever stupid heroic thing she did. Saved my life," Minho said quietly. "Which is why she's alive and protected instead of being hunted through Chicago right now. She shouldn't need protection. She should be out of this completely." "Late for that." Minho stood, moved to the windows. "Claude Leary knows someone warned me. He'll be looking for the leak, and when he figures out it was you." He turned back. "How did you get Naomi's number?" "How did you know she'd be working last night?" Marcus hesitated. "We text sometimes. She told me she had a double shift." "Your personal phone?" "Yes. Then the Learys already have you." Minho's voice was matter of fact. "They'll pull phone records, see you contacted Naomi right before the hit went sideways. Won't take them long to connect the dots." Fear flashed across Marcus's face. "So what do I do?" "You stay here, under my protection, until I can end this." Minho's eyes moved to Naomi. "Both of you, because separately you're vulnerable. Together, you're leverage I can use." "Use for what?" Naomi asked. "To destroy Claude Leary." Minho's smile was cold. "He made a mistake going after me publicly. If I can prove Genevieve orchestrated the attack, prove he sanctioned it, I can turn every organization in this city against him. End his power completely." "How do you prove it?" Marcus demanded. "With your testimony about what you overheard." "With Naomi's testimony about what she saw at the restaurant, and with evidence I'm going to extract from people who were there." Minho pulled out his phone, showed them a photo. "This man, do you recognize him?" Naomi stared at the image, one of the men from the corner booth, now very dead on a restaurant floor. Her stomach turned. "He was at the restaurant," she whispered. "Near the kitchen." Name was Laurent Morrow. He worked for Claude Leary for 15 years, very loyal, very careful. Ho swiped to another photo. "This is his phone. My people recovered it from the scene. It's encrypted, but we're working on it. When we crack it, we'll have proof of Leary's orders." "When, not if," Marcus asked. "Have the best." Minho's confidence was absolute. "It's just a matter of time." "In the meantime," Naomi asked, "what hide here? You stay safe, you prepare to testify, and you let me handle the Leroys." Minho's eyes held hers. "Unless you have a better plan," she didn't. God help her, she didn't. A knock on the door interrupted them. A man entered, mid-30s, Korean, moving with military precision. He spoke to Minho in rapid Korean. Minho's expression darkened. Naomi asked, "What's wrong?" Minho was silent for a moment. Then, "Genevieve held a press conference an hour ago. She's claiming I attacked her without provocation, that she barely escaped with her life. She's playing the victim perfectly." He pulled up a video on his phone. Genevieve appeared on screen, looking elegant and traumatized, a bandage on her temple that Naomi was certain was fake. "I loved him," Genevieve was saying, her voice breaking. "I thought we were building a life together. I never imagined he could be so violent, so unstable, if his own men hadn't turned on him." She wiped away tears. "I'm just grateful to be alive." Reporter's voice. "And the other casualties. Innocent people caught in the crossfire." Genevieve's voice hardened. "Because Minho Kang cares more about power than human life. I hope justice finds him, for everyone he's hurt." Minho turned off the video. "She's good, I'll give her that." "She's lying," Naomi said hotly. "Everyone there knows she's lying. Everyone there is either dead, paid off, or too terrified to speak up." Minho's voice was cold. "Welcome to how power works. The truth is whatever the loudest voice says it is." "Then we need to be louder," Marcus said. "We will be, when the time is right." Minho looked at Naomi. "But not yet. Right now you're both officially missing. I need you to stay that way until I have everything in place." "Missing?" Naomi's stomach dropped. "People will be looking for me, my landlord, Your landlord thinks you skipped town to avoid rent. Your few friends think you moved for a better job opportunity." Minho's expression was unapologetic. "I had my people handle it. You're a ghost, Naomi. It's safer that way." Anger flashed hot through her chest. "You had no right. I had every right." His voice was sharp. "The moment you handed me that warning, you became my responsibility, and I don't let the people under my protection die because they were too stubborn to disappear." "Not your responsibility. I'm not your anything." He moved closer, and suddenly the air between them felt charged. "Then leave. Walk out that door. See how far you get before the Leroys find you." Naomi held his gaze, fury and something darker warring in her chest. She wanted to tell him to go to hell, wanted to prove she didn't need his protection. But she wasn't stupid. Marcus's warning, the shooting, Genevieve's press conference, it all added up to one truth. She was in over her head. "Fine," she said quietly. "We stay for now." Something flickered in Minho's eyes, approval maybe, or satisfaction. "Smart choice," Marcus stood abruptly. "I need air, this is insane, all of it." "Third floor has a balcony," Minho said. "You can't leave the building, but you can get outside. Jun will show you." He nodded to the man who'd brought the news. Marcus left, his anger evident in every step. Jun followed silently. Alone with Minho, Naomi felt the space contract. He was watching her with that unreadable expression, and she suddenly became hyper-aware of how the sweater he'd bought her clung to her curves, how his eyes traveled over her like he was cataloging every detail. "Angry," he observed. "You erased my life without asking." "I saved your life without asking." He moved closer, and Naomi fought the urge to step back. "There's a difference. Because from where I'm standing, you're just another man making decisions for me." His smile was sharp. "I'm not like other men." "You're worse." But even as she said it, she felt heat pool low in her stomach. Hated that her body was responding to his proximity, to the dangerous energy that rolled off him in waves. "Probably," he agreed. His hand came up, and for a moment she thought he might touch her face. Instead, he brushed a curl that had escaped her ponytail back behind her ear, his fingers barely grazing her skin. "But I'm the only one standing between you and the people who want you dead, so maybe worse is exactly what you need right now." His touch sent electricity down her spine. She forced herself to step back, to break the moment before it became something she couldn't take back. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Really? You could have just sent me away, given me money, made me someone else's problem." Minho was quiet for a long moment. "You want the truth." "Yes." I'm tired of the Leroys. Tired of the games, the posturing, the constant threat. His eyes were dark, intense. Claude Leroy has been trying to push me out of Chicago for 2 years. This engagement with Genevieve was supposed to be peace, but I knew it was a trap. I just didn't know when they'd spring it. So you used yourself as bait. And you gave me exactly what I needed, proof that they moved first, that they planned murder. His smile was cold. Now I get to destroy them legally, publicly. In a way that ensures no one ever tries this again. We're just tools in your plan. Your witnesses. Protected witnesses who get to live through this instead of becoming statistics. He studied her face. I won't pretend this is altruism, Naomi. I'm using you. But you're using me too. Using my protection, my resources, my power to stay alive. So maybe we can stop pretending this is anything other than what it is. What is it? A mutually beneficial arrangement between two people who need each other to survive. His eyes held hers. Unless you'd prefer I pretty it up with lies, she should hate his honesty, should be offended by the transactional way he framed everything. Instead, she felt something twist in her chest, respect, maybe, or recognition, because he was right. They were using each other, and there was something almost refreshing about a man who didn't pretend otherwise. Long, she asked. How long do we have to stay here? Depends on how fast my people crack that phone. Could be days, could be weeks. He moved back to the table, pulled out a chair. Sit, we need to go over your testimony, make sure every detail is locked in. Now, the longer we wait, the more the Leroys can spin their narrative. He gestured to the chair. Come on, tell me everything you remember about yesterday, every single detail. So Naomi sat and they went through it. Hour after hour, Minho asking questions, pushing for specifics, making her recreate every moment from the flowers arriving to the sound of that first gunshot. He was meticulous, ruthless, catching inconsistencies, making her clarify until her head pounded. By the time they finished, it was past noon and she was exhausted. Good, Minho said, closing his laptop. You have a strong memory, that'll help in court. Court. The word felt surreal. This is really going to trial. If I do this right, yes, public trial, media coverage, the whole circus. His smile was predatory. I want everyone to see what the Leroys are, want it documented so thoroughly that they never recover. If you don't do it right, then we're all dead. He said it so casually that it took a moment for the weight to hit. But I'm very good at doing things right. Marcus appeared in the doorway. We have a problem. Minho's expression sharpened. What kind of problem? The news. They're running a story. Marcus held up his phone. About you, Naomi. They found your employee photo from the restaurant. Naomi's heart stopped. Minho took the phone, his jaw tightening as he read. Naomi Williams, 26, has been missing since the shooting at Le Jardin des Toils, he read aloud. Police are asking anyone with information about her whereabouts to come forward. She's considered a person of interest in the ongoing investigation. He looked up and something dangerous moved through his expression. The Leroys are escalating. They're making you the story instead of Genevieve. What does that mean? Naomi asked, though she already knew. It means they're going to paint you as my accomplice, as someone who helped me attack Genevieve. Minho set down the phone carefully. It means we're out of time. We move now. Where? Public. His smile was sharp, dangerous. We go on offense. Tomorrow morning, you and I are giving a press conference. You're going to tell your story, and I'm going to make Claude Leroy regret ever coming after me. Tomorrow. Naomi's voice came out strangled. That's too fast. I'm not ready. You're ready. Minho stood, moved to her side of the table. You're smart, you're credible, and you have the truth. That's all you need. They'll tear me apart. They'll try. His hand came to rest on the table beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. But I'll be right there, and I don't let what's mine get destroyed. I'm not yours. His smile was slow, devastating. Keep telling yourself that. Air between them crackled. Naomi's heart was racing, and she couldn't tell if it was fear or something far more dangerous. Marcus cleared his throat. I'll just be somewhere else. He left. The silence stretched. You should rest, Minho said finally. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. Can't rest. My face is all over the news. The Leroys are hunting me, and you want me to stand in front of cameras. Naomi. His hand moved to her shoulder, warm and grounding. Breathe, she tried, failed. Her chest was too tight, panic clawing at her throat. Look at me. His voice was quiet but commanding. Look at me, she did. His eyes were dark, intense, and absolutely certain. I won't let them hurt you, he said. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever the Leroys try, I won't let them touch you. Do you understand? She should ask him why, should question what she meant to him beyond a useful witness. but standing there with his hand on her shoulder and his eyes burning into hers, she couldn't find the words, so she just nodded. Good. His thumb brushed against her collarbone, just once, barely there, but enough to send heat racing through her. Now go rest. I have work to do. He left before she could respond, and Naomi stood alone in the conference room, her skin still burning where he'd touched her, wondering when exactly she'd stopped being just a witness under protection and become something far more complicated. Naomi didn't rest. She spent the afternoon packing her room, running through everything that could go wrong with tomorrow's press conference. Every scenario ended with her dead or discredited or both. By evening, she couldn't take the four walls anymore. She ventured out, found her way to the third-floor balcony Marcus had mentioned. Chicago stretched out below, the city lights beginning to flicker on as dusk settled. The air was cold, biting, but she welcomed it, reminded her she was still alive. Couldn't sleep either. She turned to find Minho leaning against the doorframe, watching her with those dark, unreadable eyes. He'd changed again, dark slacks, black sweater that did absolutely nothing to hide the lean muscle beneath. He looked like money and danger wrapped in perfect control. Do you do it? She asked. Stay calm when everything's falling apart. Practice. He moved onto the balcony, standing close enough that she caught his scent, expensive cologne and something darker. And knowing that panic doesn't solve problems, action does. That what tomorrow is, action. Tomorrow is war. His smile was sharp. Just fought with cameras instead of bullets. Naomi leaned against the railing, looking out at the city. I've never been on television before, never wanted to be. You'll do fine. How can you know that? Because you're still standing. He moved beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Most people would have broken by now, run, hidden, begged me to make it all go away, but you're here, fighting. That takes strength most people don't have. His words settled something in her chest, warm and unexpected. Or stupidity, maybe both. His laugh was soft. Best warriors usually have a little of each. They stood in silence for a moment. The city hummed below, oblivious to the violence brewing in its shadows. Can I ask you something? Naomi said finally. Depends on the question. Did you really agree to marry Genevieve? You said you knew it was a trap, but you went through with the engagement anyway. Minho was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because sometimes the only way to end a war is to walk into the trap and spring it yourself. On your terms, not theirs. That's insane. He turned to look at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. But it worked. I'm alive, the Leroys are exposed, and I have you. Have me, as a witness, he clarified, but the heat in his eyes suggested he meant something else entirely. The missing piece I needed to destroy them. Naomi's pulse quickened. She should step back, put distance between them. Instead, she found herself asking, and after. After you destroy them and I testify and this is all over, what happens to me? What do you want to happen? I want my life back. I want to be invisible again. You. He moved closer, and now there was no space between them at all. Because from where I'm standing, you've never looked more alive than you do right now. He was right, and she hated it. Hated that danger and fear had awakened something in her she'd kept buried for years. Hated that this man, this dangerous, beautiful, impossible man, made her feel seen in a way no one else ever had. This isn't real, she whispered. Whatever this is between us, it's just adrenaline and proximity and chemistry. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. Don't insult us both by pretending you don't feel it. She did feel it. God, she felt it like electricity in her veins, like fire under her skin. His touch was gentle but absolutely possessive, and she should push him away, should remember that he was dangerous, that this was temporary, that she was just a witness he needed. But when his thumb traced her lower lip, all her rational thoughts scattered. Minho, she breathed, and didn't know if it was warning or invitation. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met, and it was nothing like she expected, not gentle, not tentative, but claiming. Absolute. His hand slid into her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss, and Naomi made a sound that was half gasp, half surrender. She'd kissed men before. Safe men. Boring men. Men who'd never made her feel like this, like she was burning from the inside out, like she'd die if he stopped touching her. Minho's other hand found her waist, pulling her flush against him, and she felt the hard muscle of his body, the controlled strength in the way he held her. Like she was precious. Like she was his. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. His eyes were dark, hungry, and absolutely focused on her. That was a mistake, Naomi whispered, even as her hands fisted in his sweater, keeping him close. Probably. His smile was dangerous. Want to make it again? She should say no. should remember all the reasons this was complicated and wrong and impossible. Instead, she pulled him back down and kissed him like the world was ending, because maybe it was. Maybe tomorrow she'd stand in front of cameras and the Leroys would find a way to destroy her. Maybe this was all she'd get. This moment, this man, this burning certainty that whatever happened next, at least she'd felt something real. Minho groaned against her mouth, his control fracturing. His hands moved to her thighs, lifting her, and suddenly she was on the railing with him between her legs, and the kiss turned desperate. Consuming. "We should stop," he said against her lips, even as his hands slid under her sweater, warm against her skin. "We should," she agreed, arching into his touch. Neither of them stopped. His mouth moved to her neck, finding the sensitive spot below her ear, and Naomi's head fell back, a moan escaping before she could stop it. His hands were everywhere, her waist, her hips, sliding up her ribs with devastating slowness. Naomi. Her name was rough in his throat. "Tell me to stop." Stop. Her hands found his belt, and his sharp intake of breath was the most satisfying sound she'd ever heard. "Don't you dare stop." He captured her mouth again, kissing her with an intensity that bordered on violence. Everything else fell away, the danger, the press conference, the fact that they were on a balcony where anyone could see. There was only this, only him, only the desperate need building between them. A door slammed somewhere inside. Voices speaking Korean. Reality crashed back. Minho pulled away, breathing hard, his eyes wild. Fuck! Naomi couldn't speak, could barely think. Her lips felt swollen, her body aching for something they couldn't finish. "Not here, not now, boss," a voice called from inside. "We have an update on the phone." Minho's jaw tightened. He helped Naomi down from the railing with unexpected gentleness, his hands lingering on her waist a moment longer than necessary. "We'll finish this conversation later," he said quietly, and the promise in his voice made heat pool low in her stomach. That wasn't a conversation. His smile was sharp, predatory. No, it wasn't. He stepped back, and just like that, the controlled crime lord was back. "Stay here, I need to handle this." He disappeared inside, leaving Naomi alone on the balcony, her heart racing, her body still burning from his touch. She pressed her fingers to her lips, could still taste him, could still feel the desperate grip of his hands on her skin. This was insane. She was insane. Kissing the man who'd made her a prisoner in all but name, who was using her testimony to wage war against his enemies, who existed in a world of violence she wanted no part of. Except she did want part of it. Wanted him. And that terrified her more than the Leroys ever could. She stayed on the balcony until the cold forced her inside. Found Marcus in what passed for a living room, watching the news coverage with a grim expression. "Everywhere," he said without looking up. "Your face, speculation about where you are, conspiracy theories about you and Kang being secret lovers planning this together." He finally met her eyes. "This is bad, Naomi, really bad." "I know." "You," he stood, moved closer. "Because from where I'm sitting, you're getting in way over your head with this guy, and I don't just mean the legal stuff." Heat flushed her cheeks. "I don't know what you—" "I saw you on the balcony." His voice was quiet but hard. "Saw the way he looks at you, the way you look at him. This isn't just protection anymore, is it?" Naomi sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. "I don't know what it is. It's dangerous." Marcus sat beside her. "Naomi, listen to me. Men like Kang Min-ho don't have relationships. They have assets. Don't confuse his protection with something real. You don't know him. You do. You've known him for what, 36 hours? Marcus's expression was concerned, not angry. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to keep you from getting hurt. Because when this is over, when you've testified and the Leroys are dealt with, what do you think happens? You think he keeps you around, makes you part of his world. I don't expect anything from him." "You," Marcus studied her face. "Because you're looking at him like he matters, like he's more than just the guy keeping you alive. And that's how people like us get broken by people like him." His words hit too close to home, because Marcus was right. She was starting to care about Min-ho in ways that went beyond gratitude or survival. And that was the most dangerous thing she could do. "It doesn't matter," she said finally. "After tomorrow, after the press conference, everything changes anyway." "Yeah, it gets worse." Marcus pulled up something on his phone. "Look at this." It was a social media post, already going viral. Someone claiming to be Naomi's former coworker, saying she'd always been obsessed with rich men, always looking for a way to climb. The comments were brutal, calling her a gold digger, a manipulator, worse. "Destroying your reputation before you even speak," Marcus said. "By tomorrow, half of Chicago will think you're a con artist who helped Kang attack his innocent fiancée." Naomi's stomach churned. "They're good. Leroys have been doing this for generations. Character assassination is just another tool. Marcus's voice softened. You don't have to do this. You could still disappear, let Kang fight his own battles. Spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, wondering when they'll find me. Naomi shook her head. No, I'm seeing this through. Then I'm there with you tomorrow at the press conference. Marcus, testifying too, about what I heard at the hotel, about Leroy planning the hit. His expression was determined. You're not doing this alone. Relief and fear warred in her chest. You'll be painting a target on yourself. Target's already there. Might as well make it count. He squeezed her shoulder. We're family, Naomi. That means something, at least to me. She hugged him, fighting tears. I don't deserve you. Probably not. His laugh was soft. But you're stuck with me anyway. They stayed like that for a moment, drawing strength from each other. Then footsteps on the stairs made them pull apart. Minho appeared, his expression dark. We cracked the phone, he said without preamble. You need to see this. He led them back to the conference room where his tech specialist, a young Korean woman with purple streaks in her hair, had multiple screens open. One showed a series of text messages in French. This is from Claude Leroy to Laurent Morrow, the tech specialist said, her English crisp. The man who died at the restaurant. Timestamp is 6 hours before the attack. She pulled up the messages, already translated to English. Genevieve will signal when target is settled. 3 shots, center mass, make it clean, understood. Team is ready, no witnesses. Anyone who sees too much is collateral. What about the girl? The waitress who keeps staring. If she's a problem, eliminate her. Genevieve will identify threats. Naomi's blood turned to ice. They'd noticed her watching. Had been prepared to kill her even before she warned Minho. There's more, the tech specialist said. She pulled up voice memos and suddenly Claude Leroy's voice filled the room, speaking French with cold precision. Minho Kang has become too powerful. This marriage would have been our way in, but Genevieve reports he's too careful, too controlled. We can't wait for the merger anymore. We take him out, take his territory, and deal with the fallout. Chicago belongs to the Leroys, it always has. Another voice, rougher. And if things go wrong, they won't. Genevieve will play her part perfectly. By the end of the night, Chicago will see Kang for the violent animal he is, and will be there to restore order. Recording ended. Silence filled the room. That's our smoking gun, Minho said quietly. Claude Leroy, in his own words, ordering my death, admitting the whole thing was a setup. Will it hold up in court? Marcus asked. With both of your testimonies backing it up. Yes. Minho's smile was cold. Claude Leroy just gave us everything we need to destroy him. So we go public tomorrow, Naomi said. With all of it, Minho confirmed. The texts, the voice memo, your testimony, Marcus's testimony, we bury the Leroys so completely they never recover. They'll come after us, Marcus said. After we do this, they'll want revenge. Them try. Minho's voice was steel. By the time we're done, they won't have the power to come after anyone. Their political connections will abandon them, their allies will scatter, and what's left of their organization will be mine. The way he said it, absolute, certain, predatory, sent a shiver down Naomi's spine. This was who he really was. Not the man who'd kissed her on the balcony, but the crime lord who'd survived 2 decades in a world that ate the weak. Get some rest, Minho said. Both of you, tomorrow we make history. Marcus left. Naomi started to follow, but Minho's hand on her wrist stopped her. Wait, she turned back. He was closer than she expected, his eyes searching hers. About earlier, he started. We don't have to talk about it. Yes, we do. His grip on her wrist was gentle but firm. Because tomorrow everything changes, and I need you to know that what happened on that balcony, it wasn't strategy. It wasn't manipulation, it was real. Hart stuttered. Minho, I know the timing is terrible. I know this whole situation is impossible, but I also know that I haven't stopped thinking about you since the moment you handed me that warning. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist, finding her racing pulse. You could have walked away, should have walked away, but you didn't, and now I can't let you go. Can't or won't. Both. His smile was sharp, honest. I'm not a good man, Naomi. I've done things that would horrify you, but I'm good at protecting what's mine. And whether you accept it or not, you're mine now. She should argue. Should tell him she wasn't anyone's, that this connection between them was just proximity and danger and chemistry that would burn out the moment real life returned. But standing there with his hand on her wrist and his eyes burning into hers, she couldn't make herself lie. This is insane, she whispered. I know. He pulled her closer. But it's also real. And after tomorrow, after we destroy the Leroys and you're safe again, I want a chance to see what this could be. What if I don't want that? What if I want to disappear, start over somewhere far from all this? His expression darkened, something possessive and dangerous moving through his eyes. Then I'll let you go, give you everything you need to build a new life. His hand slid up her arm, sending electricity across her skin. But I don't think that's what you want. I think you're just scared. Of course I'm scared. You terrify me. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear. You terrify me too, and I haven't been scared of anything in 10 years. His admission should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like falling. Before she could respond, before she could close the distance between them and kiss him again, he stepped back. Tomorrow, he said quietly. After the press conference, after this is over, we'll figure out what this is. But tonight, you need to rest. You need to be sharp. He was right. She hated that he was right. Good night, Min-ho. Good night, Naomi. He watched her walk to the door, then added, and Naomi, wear something that makes you feel powerful tomorrow, not for the cameras, for you. She nodded and left, her heart racing, her mind spinning with everything that had happened. Back in her room, she collapsed on the bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to process the fact that in less than 12 hours, she'd be standing in front of cameras, accusing one of Chicago's most powerful crime families of attempted murder. And somewhere in the chaos of all that, she'd fallen for the man she was supposed to be helping destroy his enemies. Sleep, when it finally came, was fitful. She dreamed of gunshots and press conferences and Min-ho's hands on her skin. Woke up gasping, unsure which scenario terrified her more. Morning came too fast. Someone she suspected Min-ho had left clothes outside her door. Not the casual outfit from yesterday, but something else entirely. A tailored navy suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her salary, a cream silk blouse, heels that made her legs look endless. She stared at herself in the mirror after getting dressed, barely recognizing the woman looking back. She looked powerful, professional. Like someone who could stand in front of cameras and tell her truth without breaking. The suit felt like armor. She found Min-ho in the conference room, already dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. He looked devastating, dangerous, and beautiful, and absolutely in control. When he saw her, something heated in his expression. Perfect, he said, his voice rough. You look perfect. Look like I'm wearing someone else's life. You look like exactly who you are, a woman who saved a stranger's life and is about to destroy the people who tried to kill you both for it. He moved closer, his hand coming up to straighten her collar even though it didn't need straightening. The suit is just packaging, but what's underneath, that strength, that courage, that's all you. His words settled something in her chest, gave her courage she didn't know she needed. Are you ready? He asked quietly. No, she wasn't ready, would never be ready for what came next. But she nodded anyway. Let's go end this. His smile was sharp, proud, and absolutely devastating. That's my girl. Possessiveness in those words should have bothered her. Instead, they made her feel safer than she had in years. Together, they walked toward the elevator that would take them to the press conference, to the cameras, to the moment that would either save them both or destroy everything. And Naomi realized that somewhere between the warning she'd scribbled on a napkin and this moment, she'd stopped just surviving and started fighting for something more, for justice, for truth, for him, even if that made her the biggest fool in Chicago. The press conference was held at Min-ho's downtown office building, a sleek glass tower that screamed power and money. Naomi's hands were shaking as they rode the elevator to the 20th floor, where a room full of cameras and reporters waited. Marcus stood on her other side, his jaw tight. He dressed in his best suit, looking every inch the credible security professional. Min-ho had coached them both for hours last night. What to say, what not to say, how to handle hostile questions. Remember, Min-ho said quietly as the elevator climbed, tell your truth, nothing more, nothing less, don't let them rattle you. If they ask about us, Naomi asked. About whether we're. Me handle that. His hand found hers, squeezed once, then released. Just focus on what you saw, what you heard, what you know to be true. Elevator doors opened. The roar of voices hit immediately, dozens of reporters, cameras everywhere, flashing lights that made Naomi's head spin. Min-ho's hand touched the small of her back, steadying her. Breathe, he murmured. You've got this. They walked into the conference room together. A podium had been set up at the front, microphones clustered like predators. Min-ho's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Sarah Chen, was already there, organizing documents. The moment they appeared, the room exploded with questions. Mr. Kang, is it true you attacked your fiancée? Where has Naomi Williams been hiding? Are the two of you working together? Is this a cover-up? Min-ho raised his hand and the room gradually quieted. He moved to the podium with the confidence of a man who owned every space he entered. "Thank you all for coming," he said, his voice carrying easily over the crowd. "I'm here today to address the false allegations made by Genevieve Leroy and her father, Claude Leroy, regarding the incident at Le Jardin de Toils 3 nights ago." He paused, letting the cameras adjust, letting the weight of his words settle. "Truth is simple. I was the target of an assassination attempt orchestrated by the Leroy family. What you've been told, that I attacked Genevieve without provocation, is a carefully constructed lie designed to cover up attempted murder." The room erupted again. Minho waited for silence, then continued. "Have evidence. Text messages from Claude Leroy to his operatives, ordering my death. Voice recordings of him planning the attack. And I have 2 witnesses who will testify to what really happened that night." He gestured to Naomi. "Naomi Williams worked at Le Jardin de Toils. She overheard Genevieve Leroy confirming the hit in the wine cellar. She warned me, giving me the seconds I needed to protect myself and the other civilians in that restaurant." "Her actions saved lives," a reporter shouted. "Why should we believe her? She could be lying to protect you." "She could be," Minho agreed. "Which is why we also have Marcus Davis, a security professional who overheard Claude Leroy planning this attack days before it happened. 2 independent witnesses, both with no connection to my organization, both corroborating the same story." He nodded to Sarah, who began distributing folders to the press, copies of the text messages, transcripts of the voice recordings, timeline documents. "Everything you need to verify our claims is in those folders," Minho said. "Phone records, forensic analysis, witness statements. This isn't a he said, she said situation. This is documented proof that the Leroy family attempted murder and then tried to frame me for the crime they committed." Naomi watched the reporters flipping through folders, their expressions shifting from skepticism to shock as they read. This was it, the moment of truth. "Ms. Williams," a reporter called out, "can you tell us in your own words what you saw that night?" Minho stepped back from the podium, gesturing for Naomi to take his place. Her legs felt like water as she moved forward, but she forced herself to stand tall, to meet the cameras head-on. "I was working my shift," she began, her voice steadier than she expected. "I went to the wine cellar to get a bottle and I heard voices. Genevieve Leroy was speaking French. She didn't know I understood the language. She was confirming details of an attack, timing, positions, signals. She talked about my boss, Mr. Kang, like he was already dead." Her hands gripped the podium. "I didn't know what to do. I could have walked away, pretended I didn't hear anything. But innocent people were in that restaurant, so I wrote a warning and gave it to Mr. Kang. And because of that, because he had 30 seconds of advance notice, his security was able to respond when the shooting started." "You involved with Mr. Kang romantically?" a reporter asked bluntly. Naomi's stomach flipped, but she kept her voice steady. "I barely knew him before that night. He was a customer. I was a waitress. What happened afterward, him protecting me from the people who tried to kill him, that's not romance. That's survival." It wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Marcus stepped up next, his testimony crisp and professional. He detailed overhearing Claude Leroy's planning session at the Sinclair Hotel, the specific phrases used, the cold calculation in how they discussed Minho's murder. His credibility as a security professional with no ties to Minho's organization made his testimony devastating. By the time he finished, the room was silent except for camera clicks. Minho returned to the podium. "The Leroy family has operated in Chicago for 3 generations, building power through violence and intimidation. They've hidden behind legitimate business fronts while running criminal enterprises. And when I refused to be absorbed into their organization, when I stood as competition they couldn't control, they decided to eliminate me." His voice hardened. "But they failed, and now the world knows exactly what they are. I'm calling for a full investigation into the Leroy family's operations. I'm calling for charges to be filed against Claude Leroy for conspiracy to commit murder. And I'm calling for Genevieve Leroy to be held accountable for her role in orchestrating this attack." "Mr. Kang," a reporter interjected, "you're known to have your own questionable business dealings. How do we know you're not just as guilty as the Leroys?" Minho's smile was sharp. "I've never claimed to be a saint, but there's a difference between operating in morally gray areas and ordering hits on business rivals. The evidence speaks for itself. And I'm willing to cooperate fully with any investigation into my own operations because I have nothing to hide regarding this incident. It was a masterful answer, acknowledging the truth without admitting to anything specific. Naomi found herself impressed despite everything. The questions continued for another 30 minutes. Some hostile, some genuinely curious, all of them designed to poke holes in their story. But the evidence was too strong, the testimonies too consistent. By the end, even the most skeptical reporters looked convinced. Finally, Sarah stepped forward. That's all the time we have today. Full documentation has been provided. Thank you. Minho guided Naomi away from the podium, his hand at her back again. They made it to a private room before her legs gave out. She sank into a chair, shaking. You did it, Marcus said, crouching beside her. You were perfect. I thought I was going to pass out. You didn't. Minho was on his phone, reading something that made him smile. It's already trending. Leroy Lies is the #1 topic in Chicago. The evidence is being shared everywhere. So we won, Naomi asked. But we're winning. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers. Claude Leroy can't spin his way out of his own voice ordering my murder. By tonight, he'll have federal investigators crawling over every business he owns. Genevieve, Marcus asked. Warrant for her arrest is being issued as we speak. Minho's smile was cold. She'll turn herself in within hours. Her lawyer will advise cooperation, and she'll give up her father to save herself. It's what I would do. The words were clinical, calculated. Reminded Naomi exactly who she was dealing with, a man who thought 10 steps ahead, who turned an assassination attempt into a weapon to destroy his enemies. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now we wait. Let the investigation play out, let the evidence do its work. Minho's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, his expression tightening. Sarah says we need to move you both to a different location. The Leroys know where we are now, and they're desperate. How desperate? Marcus asked, cornered animal desperate. Minho looked at them both. I have a place outside the city, private estate, better security. We go there until this is completely finished. Naomi should have argued, should have demanded to go home to reclaim some piece of her old life. But home didn't exist anymore. The moment she'd handed Minho that warning, she'd burned her old life to ash. Okay, she said. Let's go. Drive to Minho's estate took 2 hours. They traveled in an armed convoy, 3 black SUVs, all with tinted windows, all driven by men who moved like soldiers. Naomi watched Chicago disappear behind them, replaced by suburbs, then countryside. The estate was massive, gated, surrounded by forest, with a main house that looked like something from a magazine. Modern architecture mixed with traditional Korean elements, clean lines and natural materials that somehow felt both luxurious and grounded. This is where you live? Naomi asked as they pulled up. Sometimes, when I need distance from the city. Minho stepped out, offered his hand. It's secure. No one knows about this place except my most trusted people. Inside was even more impressive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking forests, an open floor plan that flowed seamlessly from room to room, art that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. Marcus, you're in the East Wing, Minho said, gesturing to one of his men. Jun will show you to your room. Marcus hesitated, looking at Naomi. You okay? I'm fine, go rest. He left with visible reluctance. Minho turned to Naomi, and suddenly the massive space felt intimate. Come on, he said quietly. I'll show you your room. He led her up a curved staircase to the 2nd floor, down a hallway lined with more art, to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment had been. The view was stunning, forest stretching in every direction, a small lake glittering in the distance. It's beautiful, she said. Beautiful. His voice was rough. You were incredible today, at the press conference. I've never seen anyone handle that kind of pressure so well. Naomi turned to find him watching her with an intensity that made her skin heat. I was terrified. I know, but you did it anyway. He moved closer. That's the definition of courage. Space between them crackled with everything unspoken. All the fear and adrenaline of the past days, all the tension that had been building since that kiss on the balcony. Minho, she whispered. What are we doing? Something probably stupid. His hand came up to cup her face. Something definitely dangerous. His thumb brushed her cheek. But I don't care anymore, do you? She should care. Should protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak when this ended, when reality returned and they went back to being from different worlds. But standing there with his hand on her face and his eyes burning into hers, she couldn't make herself care about tomorrow. No, she breathed. I don't care. He kissed her then, and it was different from the balcony. Not desperate or rushed, but deliberate. Claiming. His hands slid into her hair, angling her head as he deepened the kiss, and Naomi melted into him, every rational thought scattering. They stumbled backward until her legs hit the bed. Minho's hands found the zipper of her suit jacket, sliding it off her shoulders with practiced ease. She fumbled with his tie, and he helped her, never breaking the kiss, until they were both shedding clothes with increasing urgency. When they finally fell onto the bed, skin against skin, Naomi gasped at the contact. He was all lean muscle and controlled strength, and the way he touched her, reverent but possessive, made her feel like the most precious thing in his world. "Tell me you want this," he said against her mouth. "Tell me this is real for you too." "It's real." She pulled him closer, wrapping her legs around his waist. "God, Minho, it's so real." He made a sound that was half groan, half surrender, and then there were no more words. Just heat and need, and the overwhelming rightness of finally giving in to what they'd been fighting since that first moment in the car. Time blurred. Minutes or hours, Naomi couldn't tell. There was only him, his hands learning every curve of her body, his mouth finding places that made her gasp and arch and beg. And when they finally came together, when he whispered her name like a prayer and she shattered in his arms, it felt like something more than just physical release. It felt like coming home. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathing hard, the afternoon sun painting patterns across the bed. Minho's fingers traced lazy circles on her shoulder, his other arm wrapped tight around her waist like he couldn't bear to let her go. "I should feel guilty," Naomi said quietly. "This is probably the worst timing in history. Probably." His laugh was soft against her hair. "But I've spent 20 years making careful, calculated decisions. This is the first time I've done something just because I wanted to, and I don't regret it. Even a little. Not even a little." He shifted to look at her, his expression serious. "I meant what I said before. You're mine now, Naomi, and I don't let go of what's mine." She should argue with the possessiveness, should remind him she wasn't property, wasn't something to be owned. But the way he said it, like she was precious, like she was chosen, made it feel less like possession and more like promise. "What happens when this is over?" she asked. "When the Leroys are dealt with and I'm safe again?" "You stay." He said it like it was simple. "You stay here with me and we figure out what this is together. I don't know anything about your world. Then I get to teach you." His smile was sharp. "And you can teach me about yours, about what it's like to live without constantly watching for threats, about being normal." "Not sure I remember normal anymore." "Then we'll figure it out together." His hand found hers, lacing their fingers. "I'm not asking you to become part of my organization, Naomi. I'm asking you to become part of my life. There's a difference." "There, can you really separate the two?" He was quiet for a moment. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I want to try for you." Honesty in his voice made her chest ache. "This is insane." "You keep saying that." He kissed her forehead. "But you're still here." She was. Despite everything, despite all the reasons this was complicated and dangerous and probably doomed, she was still here, still choosing him. "What if I can't handle it?" she whispered. "What if your world is too much? Then we'll find a way to make it less, build something different." His arms tightened around her. "I've spent 20 years being who I had to be to survive. Maybe it's time to figure out who I want to be instead." Before Naomi could respond, his phone buzzed. He reached for it, his expression darkening as he read. "What is it?" Claude Leroy just turned himself in. Minho's smile was cold. "And Genevieve's lawyer is already negotiating a plea deal. She's giving up everything, names, operations, money trails. She's destroying her father to save herself. It's over. Almost." He set down the phone, turned back to her. "There'll be trials, testimony, months of legal proceedings, but the Leroys are finished. Their power is broken." Relief flooded through Naomi, followed immediately by uncertainty. "So what happens to me now? Do I go into witness protection, disappear?" "No," his voice was firm. "You stay here with me unless that's not what you want." She studied his face, the sharp features, the dark eyes that had seemed so cold when she first saw him and now burned with something that looked almost like hope. "And if I stay," she said slowly, "what does that mean? Am I your girlfriend, your protected witness, mine?" He cut her off, pulling her close. "You're mine and I'm yours and we figure out the details as we go, but you don't disappear, you don't hide, you stay and we build something real." It should have terrified her, should have sent her running, but all she felt was certainty. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll stay." His kiss was fierce, claiming, sealing the promise between them. Over the next 3 months, Chicago watched the Leroy empire crumble. Claude Leroy was indicted on 16 charges including conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, and fraud. Genevieve turned state's witness, her testimony so damning that her father's lawyers advised him to take a plea deal. 40 years minimum, Genevieve got 12 years, eligible for parole in 8. The betrayal broke what was left of the Leray family. Their properties were seized, their assets frozen, their allies scattered. And through it all, Naomi testified. 3 times in court, each time telling her story with increasing confidence. The jury believed her. How could they not when the evidence was so overwhelming? Minho stood in the back of the courtroom each time, his presence a silent promise that she was protected, that she was safe, that she was his. The media attention was brutal at first. Speculation about their relationship, conspiracy theories, think pieces about the ethics of witnesses falling for the men they saved. But gradually, as the evidence mounted and the truth became undeniable, public opinion shifted. Naomi Williams became the woman who'd stopped an assassination, who'd stood up to organized crime, who'd helped bring down one of Chicago's most dangerous families. She hated the attention, but she learned to live with it. What she didn't expect was how easily she adapted to Minho's world. He kept his promise. She wasn't part of his organization, wasn't involved in anything illegal. But she was part of his life, and that meant understanding the complexity of it. The legitimate businesses mixed with morally gray operations. The constant security, the careful balancing of power and peace. She learned to read the silences at dinner parties, to understand when deals were being made through coded conversation. Learned which of Minho's associates were actually trustworthy and which smiled while plotting betrayal. And slowly she realized something. Minho was changing too. He'd started pulling back from the darker aspects of his empire. Selling off questionable operations, investing in legitimate businesses, building something cleaner. Not perfect, he'd never be perfect, but better, safer. "Doing this for me," she said one night, 6 months after the press conference, as they stood on the balcony of his city penthouse. "Partially," he admitted, "but also for me. You made me realize I don't have to be who I was, that I can choose something different. Do you regret it, giving up power?" "Not giving up power, I'm redirecting it." His arms came around her waist from behind. "And no, I don't regret it." "How could I when it means I get to keep you?" She leaned back against him, watching the city lights. "Marcus thinks I'm crazy." "Marcus thinks you're happy, he told me so." "Did, last week, said he'd never seen you like this. Said if I ever hurt you, he'd find a way to kill me despite all my security." Minho's laugh was soft. "I respect that." "Means it." "I know, that's why I respect it." He turned her to face him. "I have something for you." He pulled out a small box. Not a ring box, something else. When Naomi opened it, she found a key. "What's this?" "Key to the estate, the one outside the city." His expression was serious. "I'm putting it in your name, legally yours, not mine, so you always have somewhere that's completely safe, completely separate from my world. Somewhere you can go if you ever need distance from all this." Tears pricked her eyes. "Minho, I mean it. I want you here, want you in my life, but I also want you to know you have choices. Always." His hands cupped her face. "You're not trapped. You're choosing this, choosing me, and that matters." She kissed him then, pouring everything she felt into it. Love and gratitude and the overwhelming rightness of this impossible thing they'd built together. When they finally pulled apart, she was smiling through tears. "Love you," she said. "I know it's complicated and messy and probably insane, but I love you. I love you too." His smile was devastating. "Have since that first moment in the car when you looked at me like I was dangerous and fascinating and you didn't know which to feel more. You are dangerous and fascinating." "Are you?" He pulled her close. "The most dangerous woman in Chicago. You brought down the Leroys with eyeliner and a napkin." She laughed, the sound free and light. "When you put it that way." "When I put it that way, it sounds like exactly who you are. Brave and brilliant and absolutely terrifying when you need to be." His expression softened. "My perfect match." 1 year after the press conference, they threw a party at the estate. Nothing formal, just friends and the people who mattered. Marcus came with his new girlfriend, a lawyer he'd met at one of the trials. Minho's associates who'd become genuine friends. Sarah Chen, who'd become Naomi's confidant. As the sun set and music played and people laughed on the lawn, Minho found Naomi by the lake, watching the light on the water. "Happy?" he asked, sliding an arm around her waist. Deliriously. She leaned into him. "Who knew a napkin and some eyeliner could lead to this?" "I did." His smile was soft. "The moment I read that warning, I knew my life was about to change. I just didn't know how completely." "Regrets?" "None." He kissed her temple. She thought about it. About her old life, small and safe and lonely. About everything that had happened since that night at Le Jardin des Toils. The fear and danger, yes. but also the love and purpose and feeling of finally belonging somewhere. None, she said honestly. Not a single one. As darkness fell and stars appeared, they stood together watching their future unfold. It wouldn't always be easy. Minho's world was still complicated, still dangerous in ways Naomi was learning to navigate. But they'd face it together. Two people from different worlds who'd collided in violence and chaos and somehow built something beautiful from the wreckage. And if their love story started with a warning scribbled in eyeliner, well, that just made it theirs. 3 years later, Naomi stood in the same spot by the lake, her hand resting on her swollen belly. Minho came up behind her, his hands covering hers. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Huge, tired, happy." She leaned back against him. "Terrified. Childbirth, of bringing a baby into your world, our world. World is safer now than it's ever been," he reminded her. "The Lyras are gone. We've built alliances, created peace, and this child," his hand spread over her belly, "this child will grow up knowing they're loved and protected and that their parents fought like hell to build them a better world. You really think we can do that? Give them a normal life? I think we can give them a loved life and teach them to be brave like their mother, to stand up for what's right even when it's terrifying." He kissed her neck. "That's better than normal anyway." Naomi smiled, feeling their baby kick against their joined hands. "What if they ask how we met?" We'll tell them the truth. That their mother saved their father's life with the bravest act he'd ever seen, and that everything good in his world came from that moment. That's a lot of pressure to put on a napkin. His laugh rumbled through his chest. Then we'll teach them that sometimes the smallest acts of courage change everything. Daughter was born on a rainy October night, and they named her Marie, after the foster mother who taught Naomi French and given her the language that had saved Minho's life. As Naomi held her daughter for the first time, Minho beside her with tears in his eyes, she thought about that night at the restaurant. How terrified she'd been. How certain she was making a mistake. But mistakes, she'd learned, were just chances you didn't know you were taking. And sometimes those chances led to everything you never knew you needed. She'd walked into Le Jardin des Toiles, a waitress trying to stay invisible. She'd walked out the woman who'd saved a mafia boss, destroyed a crime family, and found a love that rewrote everything she thought possible. Not bad for a night's work. And as Marie wrapped her tiny fingers around Naomi's, as Minho pressed a kiss to her forehead and whispered promises about the future they'd build together, Naomi knew one thing with absolute certainty. She'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Every terrifying, impossible, beautiful moment. Because that's what love was, choosing someone even when it was dangerous, even when it was complicated, even when it made no logical sense, choosing them anyway, and being chosen in return. If you made it to the end of Naomi and Minho's story, thank you for being here. This is what Afro-Korean stories is all about: love that crosses boundaries, danger that tests limits, and characters who choose each other against all odds. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, smash that like, and drop a comment telling me what you thought. Did the press conference have you on the edge of your seat? Did the ending satisfy you? And most importantly, what kind of dangerous love story do you want to see next? Your engagement means everything and helps me bring you more of these intense, emotional journeys. Thank you for riding this wild ride with Naomi and Minho. See you in the next story, besties. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is hand a stranger a warning written in eyeliner. You never know whose life you'll change, including your own.